Shocking prophecies from Micah. 7 incredible revelations that haunt today. Find out now. A chill swept through the air as the townsfolk gathered in a circle, whispering feverishly about the strange events that had unfolded. It was as if the sky itself was holding its breath, waiting for the dark secrets of the past to be revealed. In the heart of this close-knit community stood a gnarled oak tree, its branches twisting like the fingers of a long-forgotten specter. On this eerie evening, clusters of shadowy figures and candlelight flickered, casting an otherworldly glow. There, among them, was Sarah, her eyes wide as she clutched a crumpled piece of paper tightly. It said something about ruin and a king. She gasped. The words echoed in the air, heavy with dread. Everyone knew of Micah's ancient prophecies, how they whispered warnings like secrets carried on the wind. But tonight, those secrets hung like a noose over their heads. As she spoke, a low rumble of thunder rolled through the sky, as if agreeing with her every word. His vision had predicted tomorrow, she continued, heart racing. The floods, the fires, even the blood. Gasps of disbelief erupted around her. The atmosphere crackled with tension, igniting trepidation deeper than any storm could summon. Can you imagine? One elder exclaimed, his voice wavering. What if it's true? What if we're living it? The crowd murmured, eyes darting, faces pale. A sense of impending doom settled over the group, wrapping around them tighter than a thick fog. Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. In the silence that followed, their fearful eyes locked on each other, as if waiting for someone to break the spell. Just then, a young boy shouted from the back, his face pale as a ghost. What about the shadows? The ones in the woods? The crowd gasped collectively again, and the weight of his words hung in the air like lead. Chills ran down Sarah's spine. She heard the rumors, 2 figures lurking, eyes watching from the darkness. Could it be? Were they really connected to Micah as prophecies? And what other horrors did the morrow hold for them? The night loomed heavily, shrouded in uncertainty, anxieties twisting like the branches above. What secret lay hidden in the heart of their quaint town, and when would it reveal itself? As dread seeped deeper into their bones, the only thing they knew for sure was that they weren't ready for what was coming next. As shadows danced among the flickering flames, a sudden gust of wind swept across the clearing, nearly extinguishing the candles. Gasps erupted as the light flickered wildly, and for a brief moment, the world fell into an eerie silence, only to be pierced by the crack of thunder that echoed through the valley like a warning bell. What was that? Whispered a woman at the edge of the crowd, her voice trembling. Sarah felt a lump form in her throat. She glanced at the now anxious faces surrounding her, all reflecting the deep-seated fear that had taken root. The boy's words about shadows loomed large in her mind. With each beat of her heart, she felt the pressure of their disbelief turn into a collective certainty. Something wicked was approaching, and it had been foretold. Before she could speak, another familiar figure broke through the crowd, her dark hair flowing wildly in the wind. Lila, known for her sharp intuition and whispers of the unseen, had arrived. Her eyes glimmered with an intensity that captured everyone's attention. "They're coming," she said, her voice like ice slicing through the static air. They've awakened. The murmurs turned to gasps, a ripple of fear spreading as she continued. "The shadows feed on our fears, and they've been waiting for this moment." She held her gaze high, as if searching the darkness for the unseen threats lurking just beyond the flickering light. When the sun sets tomorrow, the skies will open and the truth will unfold. A panic started to rise. People began to whisper about fleeing, abandoning their homes. Flee? And where to? A man shouted, his face twisted in concern. The woods are alive with them. We'll be trapped. Lila closed her eyes, her breath caught in her throat. We cannot simply run. We must confront what is coming. It's not just about survival. We must face the shadows and the truth they bring. A knot tightened in Sarah's chest. But what truth? The dread that followed her words hung thick in the air like a funeral shroud, making it hard to breathe. Micah's prophecy warns of a king, Lila began. A king of shadows who rises in the wake of despair. Her eyes locked onto Sarah, filled with haunting urgency. The boy, he knows. He felt it. We all feel it. All eyes turned to the boy, who trembled, staring wide-eyed into the depths of the woods, as if he could see something waiting there, lurking just outside of their realm. Sarah took a step toward him, trying to calm him. What did you see? She asked gently. They're waiting to take something to take us. He stammered, tears glistening in the corners of his eyes. I heard them, talking about blood and ruin. As the weight of his words settled over the crowd, a hush fell, filled only by the sound of rustling leaves. Fear collided with confusion, thick as a fog. The people began to break apart, their whispers blending into a cacophony of uncertainty and suspicion. Do we stay and fight, or do we run? Someone asked in despair, summoning an argument that simmered through the crowd. Sarah could hardly think straight. If they ran, they may be giving in to fear. But if they stayed, what awaited them? A low, haunting howl resounded from the woods, cutting biting cold through their hearts. It was a sound that clawed at the very core of their being, resonating with the prophecy that hung like a storm cloud over them. Tomorrow, Lila stated firmly, her voice rising above the chaos, we will uncover the truth. But we must stand together. As the shadows encroached ever closer, dread washed over Sarah. She couldn't shake the feeling that tomorrow would not just bring answers, it would bring a reckoning. What other horrors were tied to Micah's cryptic words, and could they hope to overcome them? The night pressed on, thick and heavy, holding its breath as the veil began to lift. The fate of their town dangled on the brink of chaos, and the morrow promised to be unlike any they had ever faced. The night deepened, shadows deepening in the woods as a cold wind curled around the feet of the gathered townsfolk. The flickering candlelight was their only shield against the encroaching darkness, and yet it felt alarmingly inadequate. In that quiet moment, dread gnawed at the edges of Sarah's resolve. What truth would tomorrow reveal? As voices flowed through the crowd, she felt a desperate need to silence the panic. We need to prepare, she urged, her voice infused with a sense of urgency that surprised even herself. If a storm is coming, we must be ready for it. Lila nodded, her expression grave. We need to hold a council. Gather our bravest, those willing to confront the truth. She scanned the faces illuminated by the flickers, seeking out warriors in heart, not just in body. Bravest? You mean those foolish enough to throw themselves at shadows? A man sneered, his brows knitting in skepticism. Foolishness or bravery, it matters little when the darkness seeks to swallow us whole. Lila shot back, her tone sharper than a dagger. The only way forward is through the heart of this fear. More murmurs rippled through the crowd. Sarah, struggling against doubt, found her gaze falling on the boy again. He stood at the edge, trembling but resolute, as if tethered to a truth larger than all of them. What about him? She thought, her brow furrowing. They needed answers, yet he just trembled, holding tightly to the burden of his knowledge. Let us go to the old church, Lila announced, abruptly breaking Sarah's thoughts. If he speaks of prophecies, we must bring the ancient texts. We may find guidance in Micah's words. As they stumbled into the night, Sarah felt a chilling weight pressing on her chest. She considered a town full of people, scared and desperate. What would they find in the church? What if the truth was one they couldn't bear? The moonlight slashed through the trees, illuminating thick, tangled roots that wriggled like snakes at their feet. They reached the church, its doors creaking ominously as they prayed. It still stood as a place of sanctuary. Dust motes danced in the air. But as they entered, the atmosphere shifted. It felt alive, the walls whispering the fears of those who had followed before. They gathered in a circle. Lila spoke again, her voice steady but laced with concern. We need to invoke the spirits of the past. Only then may we unlock Micah's secrets. She gestured to the boy with urgency. You hold the key. The boy met their gazes, terror etching lines on his face. But what if that key is something we don't want to open? As silence fell, the air thickened with anticipation. An unseen force seemed to envelop them, whispering words of forgotten lore as they reached for the texts. The candles flickered as though they too were aware of the impending revelations that were about to unfold. Let the past guide us, Lila instructed softly, her voice trembling as she opened an ancient tome. Dust exploded like a storm around them, settling like a pall on the hopes of the gathering. Wait, Sarah shouted. What if we're wrong? What if we provoke something we cannot control? But it was too late. The pages turned themselves as a powerful wind swept through the church, carrying with it an echo of madness. The boy gasped, eyes wide in horror. No, stop. They're angry. We've awakened them. A howl echoed from the woods, gut-wrenching and filled with rage. In that moment, the group felt a cold dread crawl over them, each breath a reminder of their impending doom. Outside, the shadows shifted, moving closer, almost eagerly, as if anticipating the chaos within. All of a sudden, a shadow broke through the entrance, the very essence of fear made flesh, eyes glinting like shards of broken glass. Prepare for what is to come. Its voice slithered through the church, resonating with dark promise. As Sarah felt her heart race and her limbs freeze, the inevitable truth loomed before them. Tomorrow would not bring answers, but an awakening of horrors beyond their comprehension. What would they do when the shadows finally claimed their do it? The boy stumbled back, colliding with the ancient stone wall, his breath shallow and rapid. You shouldn't have done this, he shouted, terror etched deep in his voice. The shadow loomed larger, its form twisting, warping like smoke caught in a wind. Sarah felt her heart pounding in sync with the breathless panic filling the room. What do we do? She whispered, half to herself, half to the group huddled close together, eyes wide and fear-stricken. What is its name? Lila's voice cracked as she desperately searched for answers. What does it want? It's not just a shadow, the boy managed to say, trembling. It's a wraith, one that feasts on fear and despair. His eyes darted around the circle. It thrives on us being terrified. Lila pushed herself forward, her fists clenched. If that's true, we can't show it any fear. We need to stand together. Her resolve held a flicker of courage that offered a thin thread of hope. But as the wraith inched closer, the candles sputtered, the flames flickering ominously, like stuttering hearts losing strength. Desperation churned in Sarah's gut. She reached for Lila's arm, her grip tight. We can't just stand here. We need to fight back. Fight what? A voice from the shadows murmured, the wraith twisting its fragmented form. You think you can conquer what you cannot even see? As it spoke, the air grew colder. Sarah felt goosebumps rise on her arms. Memories of long ago fears flooded back, the tales of children warned not to wander too far into the woods, of brave souls who vanished under the cover of the night. Were those stories just warnings, or was this something ancient and hungry? Micah understood them. The boy whispered suddenly, almost to himself. He wrote of containment, of sealing the darkness. Seal? Lila echoed, determination sparking in her eyes. We need to find out how. We have to stop this before it consumes us. Here. The boy gestured to the open tome. It's all in the words. We just have to. But the wraith let out a deafening shriek, drowning out the boy's words. The sound cut through the church like a serrated blade, each note a raw and piercing reminder of their impending doom. Shadows danced wildly on the walls, seemingly mocking their nightmare. Focus, shouted Lila, raising her voice above the chaos. Someone read. Speak the incantations from the texts. Me? Sarah stammered, her voice barely carrying over the wraith's haunting cries. Someone needs to, Lila emphasized, but the chill deepened, wrapping around them like an icy chain tightening against their throats. With shaking hands, Sarah turned the pages, heart racing, her breath shaky as she scanned the archaic symbols. Each word felt like a weight, full of deep-rooted fear and long-stayed anger. She glanced up momentarily, the boy's eyes filled with expectation and dread. "Find the right one," he urged, his voice cracking under the pressure. The wraith screeched again, hunger palpable in the air. Its fragmented body began to extend, thorns of shadow reaching out, ready to consume. Sarah's fingers brushed against the age-worn text, and a flicker of light burst forth as a strange energy pulsed from within it. "Wait," she gasped. "This one, this is it. Speak it," Lila urged, voice fierce amidst chaos. The air shifted as Sarah opened her mouth, words tumbling forth. The ground beneath their feet vibrated ominously, and with every chant, the words reverberated like a thunderclap, challenging the very essence of that dark presence. But would the incantation work? Or had they just unleashed something worse than the wraith itself? Outside, the winds wailed like spirits freed of their chains. The shadows surged, moving with purpose, and they knew they were at the edge of something monumental, something that would either lead them to salvation or spell their end. As the last word left her lips, the shadows halted abruptly. The wraith hesitated, darkness swirling in a storm of fury and confusion. Had they struck at its heart, or had they just turned up the volume, intensifying its rage? Just then, a low, savage growl echoed from the woods, a chilling, grating sound that promised more than just darkness. Horrors lurking just beyond the trees, ready to join the chaos. Now, they were truly out of time, standing at the precipice of a nightmare that had just begun. What awaited them in the dark corners of their own fears? The words hung in the frigid air for a heartbeat, then exploded outward like a chain reaction. The shadows, once flickering in chaos, began to churn furiously. The wraith let out a furious howl, a sound that resonated deep within their bones, rattling their very core. "Don't stop," Lila screamed, her voice cutting through the mayhem. Sarah felt the weight of fear surge through her. She raised her voice again, her throat aching as she continued the incantation, the peculiar cadence of the ancient language wrapping around her like a protective cloak. The moment felt surreal. With every word, an electric energy surged between them, the oppressive chill seemingly retreating until the growl returned, now closer, more ominous. The boy's face turned pale as he locked eyes with Sarah. "It's not just a wraith, something else is coming." Just then, a crack reverberated against the stone walls. The wooden doors of the church shuddered violently, rattling in their frames as something massive battered against them. Sarah's heart raced as the shadows pooled beneath the door. "Keep going," Lila urged, gripping Sarah's shoulder. The wraith shrieked again, thrashing against the growing light emanating from the tome. Its twisted body recoiled, as if the words were pushing it back. Yet, the sound of claws scraping against the door sent frigid terror coursing through them all. It wasn't just the wraith they had to face. A darkness far deeper and more primal was at work, summoned by their desperate attempt to protect themselves. "Come on," yelled the boy, panic spilling into his voice. "You have to finish it." The growl turned into a guttural roar, shaking the room as something outside shattered the doors completely. Pieces of wood flew apart like splinters, scattering as a figure loomed, silhouetted against the dim light of the moon. It was gigantic, a manifestation of fury and despair, with twisted limbs and eyes that glowed like embers. "What is that?" Sarah gasped, feeling a weight in her chest, a suffocating dread creeping in as the air thickened around them. "Something worse," the boy whispered, paralyzed with fear. "Something that feeds on terror." Just as she thought of retreating, a pulse of light erupted from the tome, a brilliant flash that illuminated the entire church, bathing everything in otherworldly glow. The wraith screamed, its body contorting in pain as the light intersected with its darkness. But the growling creature outside shuddered, unfazed, its eyes locking in on each of them. "Finish it, Sarah. Now!" Lila yelled, her voice raw with urgency. A final surge of determination washed over Sarah. She summoned every remnant of courage she had left. By the words of Micah, "I command you," before she could finish, the growling creature lurched forward, crashing into the church, sending debris flying. The walls shook, dust cascading from above, and just as Sarah steadied herself, the pulsing light dimmed. The tome's energy was dwindling, their chants flickering like a dying candle. "Focus, Sarah. You have to end this," Lila shouted, battling against the mounting chaos. The eyes of the beast glimmered, an insatiable hunger lurking beneath. Sarah felt every nerve in her body scream. She was standing at the abyss, at the edge of their doom. "Do it," the boy shouted, terror etched in his voice. As the words slipped from her lips, she saw flashes of memories, the laughter shared among friends, the sun-drenched myriad of life outside, the warmth of summer nights. Drawing on those bright moments, Sarah felt the weight lift slightly. Let the light bind you. Let reveal your truth. The air crackled, and the wraith shrieked one final time, its form bursting apart as if the very essence of fear was being ripped away. But the growling creature charged, teeth bared, looming ever closer. Would the incantation be enough to repel both shadows? Or had they merely unleashed the greatest terror of all? In that agonizing moment, their fate hung in the balance, as silence cloaked the room once more, revealing nothing but darkness. What lay ahead in the shadows, waiting for its turn? The impact echoed through the church, a thunderous reminder of their mortality. Dust swirled in the air, thick and choking. Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs as she stood frozen, the last syllables of the incantation still clinging to the air. The beast's massive form surged through the wreckage, its eyes glowing with insatiable hunger. "Run!" Lila's scream pierced the haze, snapping Sarah from her paralysis. Instinct kicked in. Sarah grabbed Lila's hand, and together they bolted towards the rear of the church, the sound of splintering wood behind them an ominous drumbeat to their retreat. The boy followed, his breath coming in ragged gasps, the fear in his eyes reflected in the scattered beams of moonlight that pushed through the broken windows. "That thing is coming," he cried, barely keeping pace. "What about the tome? It's losing power," Lila shouted, glancing back over her shoulder. The creature's form was monstrous. It moved with the grace of a predator, its glow pulsating, each step promising destruction. They reached the altar, its worn surface feeling like a barrier between them and certain death. Sarah's mind raced. The tome wasn't just their weapon. It was their only hope. "What if we can use it? The light, it banished the wraith," she said, her voice laced with desperation. "But it nearly broke when the wraith fell." "We can't risk it," the boy interjected, grimacing as the beast continued to charge through the debris. "Sarah," Lila squeezed her hand, her eyes fierce. "We have no choice. We need to face it together." The shadows in the church quivered, and the air shivered with a foreboding tension. Sarah turned back toward the altar, and to her surprise, she noticed the tome flickering in the dim moonlight. It pulsed rhythmically as though it were alive, beckoning them with a call. Maybe it just needs a trigger," Sarah said, glancing between her friends, realizing the finality of their situation. "If we unite our energy, it might amplify the incantation." Having no time for doubt, they gathered closely, forming a circle on the cold stone floor. They placed their hands on the tome, feeling the thrumming energy against their palms. The beast's roar pierced through the air, vibrating the chambers of the church. "Think about what we want to protect, what's worth saving," Sarah demanded, adrenaline rushing through her veins. They closed their eyes, and Sarah felt the warmth of her friend's presence swell around her. Memories surged in vivid clarity, laughter over summer picnics, bedtime stories, the sound of warm rain against their favorite cafe. "All together now," Sarah shouted, channeling the palpable energy. "By the words of Micah, I command you to reveal your truth." Light burst forth from the tome, illuminating the church in blinding brilliance. For a heartbeat, the room felt suspended, a moment where time ceased to exist. The shadows recoiled, shrieking as if scorched. Yet much too soon, the beast's roar drowned out the light. It surged forward, a terrifying wave of violence. The ground shook beneath them, and cracks splintered across the stone floor. "Come on," Lila urged, her voice strained. "We have to focus." The beast's form twisted as it lunged, teeth bared. Seconds turned into an eternity as the light flickered, battling against the sheer ferocity of ravenous darkness. "Keep pushing," the boy cried, but Sarah felt a sliver of doubt creep in. What if they faltered now? As the darkness swallowed the light inch by inch, Sarah shut her eyes tight, feeling its claws scrape against her mind. Just as panic threatened to drown her, a thought ignited within. Could they draw upon the light, even from the terror looming ahead? It felt like a gamble, but deep down she believed it could work. "Draw it in," she shouted. "Let it fuel our power." With her command, a collective breath was held. In that heartbeat, the darkness lunged, ready to consume, but within the very gut of despair, Sarah reached deep. She would not let fear extinguish their light. Would the power of their shared memories overcome the beast? Or would their final stand become nothing but a whisper lost in the night? As darkness loomed ever closer, their hearts raced, and the church trembled. Sarah could feel it closing in, the air thickening with dread. What awaited them as they transcended the edge? What sacrifice would they have to make to reveal the truth hidden within the shadows? The piercing roar of the beast shattered the silence, a sound that seemed to resonate with the very bones of the church. Sarah's heart nearly stopped as the darkness surged towards them like a tidal wave, crashing against their fragile barrier of light. Lila's grip tightened, but Sarah could feel the warmth from their joined hands begin to falter. "Focus. We can't let it break us," Lila shouted, her voice filled with an urgency that rattled through Sarah's very core. She could hear the beast's claws scratching against the stone, the noise sharp and unforgiving. A rush of wind whipped around them, chilling her to the bone despite the warmth of her friends beside her. The memories they had conjured felt distant but familiar. They flickered like fireflies in the night, illuminating the dark recesses of her mind. "Together," Sarah urged, her voice rising above the cacophony of chaos surrounding them. "We can do this." Just as they began to chant the incantation again, the creature lunged, darkness spilling from its maw and crashing against the fading light. The tome in front of them pulsed violently, the energy struggling to maintain a connection in the face of overwhelming fear. Sarah sensed something shifting within the tome, as if it were processing their desperation, searching for a way to respond. "Don't let go. Don't think. Just feel," Sarah yelled again, a wave of fear rushing through her. They began to chant, their voices weaving into a fragile tapestry, binding them together against the horror. She felt the energy between them resonate, pushing against the darkness. For an instant, it felt like a bubble encasing them, a fragile safety amidst the encroaching dread. But then, the beast roared again, a sound tinged with hunger. In that awful moment, the light flickered, blinding Sarah as the shadows threatened to engulf their sanctuary. She squeezed her eyes tighter, imagining her family, the home they loved, every precious moment. Her mind raced, frantically searching for a way to press through the fear. "Focus on love," the boy suddenly shouted, his voice sounding raw and urgent. "It's love that wielded the light before." "Love," Lila echoed, her eyes wide and wild as the darkness danced around them. But she held on, refusing to back down. With a power that surged from the deepest corners of Sarah's heart, she pictured the warmth of their memories as a shield of light. "By the bond we share," she cried, the sweat trickling down her brow. "We stand united." The tome responded, the energy unlocking like a floodgate. A brilliant beam shot forth, spiraling into the fray between them and the beast stabbing through the darkness with every ounce of strength they had. The creature shrieked, its cry piercing deeper than any knife, a combination of fury and pain. Just as they felt the tide turning, the ground trembled beneath them, fissures ripping open, swallowing pieces of the church hole. Sarah could see the beast beginning to recoil, but it wasn't defeated yet. Rage filled its glowing eyes, more ferocious than before. The darkness writhed, twisting and swirling, forming a storm of shadows that threatened to pull them into the void. "Change tactics. We need to drive it back," Lila urged, her voice breaking through the chaos. In that flash of realization, Sarah understood. They weren't just fighting for light. They had to harness fear, transform it. Use its rage. We can push it back. The tumult intensifying. The tome pulsed again, the light merging with the fear swirling around them. Sarah steadied herself, channeling all the pent-up emotions, directing the energy with fierce intention. Together, she shouted, urgency pushing her forward. But as they began to channel their energy into the light, cracks in the church widened, and the pain of the beast transformed from rage to desperation, a feeling so raw and profound that it touched Sarah in a way she never saw coming. "Something's wrong," the boy shouted, eyes wide with terror. The cracks grew with each heartbeat, echoing their last moments if they failed. Could fear work for them this time? Could they save not just themselves, but something beyond their own lives? Time felt like it was about to fracture, and Sarah knew that the moment had come when they had to make the choice. What awaited them on the other side of fear? Would they harness it and turn it against the beast, or would it consume them all? As the darkness swirled, the answer hung in the air, a terrifying cliff they dared to stand upon. The beast roared once more, the sound echoing through the crumbling church with the weight of 1,000 storms. Sarah's heart hammered in her chest, each beat echoing the primal rhythm of fear she felt. Was it really possible to channel the monster's rage? The air crackled, and she felt the shadows dancing around them, hungry for what they could offer. "Keep holding," she urged, drawing strength from Lila and the boy. They huddled together, 3 small figures against the swelling darkness, gripping onto their thread of hope. As they poured their emotions into the incantation, something extraordinary began to happen. The chaos splintering around them began to stutter, the dark waves pulling back for just a heartbeat. It was as if the shadows were weighing the risk of confronting their defiance. But any comfort was fleeting. The beast lunged back, its massive form a blur, slamming into the barrier of light they struggled to maintain. "Faster," Lila shouted, her breath coming in ragged gasps. "We can't stop now." The tome in front of them glowed, churning with energy, but it flickered violently, threatening to die out beneath the weight of the beast's onslaught. Sarah felt an instinctive pull into the depths of despair. Would their bond be enough? "Remember," the boy murmured, his voice shaking but resolute. "We've done this before. We can transform it." Suddenly, Sarah caught a flash of the creature's eyes, glinting with a mixture of fury and haunting sorrow. That look sliced into her, and she saw something unexpected, a flicker of what might have been a soul trapped within such a horrifying body. The realization hit her hard. This beast wasn't just a mindless force, but a creature burdened by its own existence. In that moment, clarity amidst chaos pierced through her fear. "No," she screamed, her heart aching for the pain they all shared. "We can't just fight. We have to understand it." "What?" Lila's voice wavered, confusion straining her words. "Look at its eyes," Sarah said, barely above a whisper. It's hurt. We need to show it mercy." With every ounce of will, Sarah called out again, her voice stronger this time. "We see you. We know you're in pain. We won't let you be alone." The shadows paused, quivering in response. For a brief moment, silence fell. The beast hesitated, its next growl caught somewhere between a howl and a whimper. "Push it back. We can't stop," Lila urged, frantically trying to redirect their light. "No, we must connect," Sarah shouted, drawing upon the light of their memories, the joy, the sorrow, everything they had ever shared. Addressing the creature directly, she poured herself into her words. "You're not a monster. You just want to be free. The light erupted around them with renewed force. It fused with the energy of their fear, their love, creating a wave of illumination propelled by compassion. The beast let out a heart-wrenching cry that shook the very foundations of the church. But then, the ground beneath them roared to life. Fissures cracked wide, swallowing ancient stone into an abyss below. "Sarah! Lila!" The boy screamed as he stumbled back, the shadows snapping at his heels. "Hold on to me," Lila shouted, grabbing the boy as he reached for Sarah, the three of them forming a desperate circle as the church began to collapse around them. The light pulsed, flaring once more as they struggled to keep their connection. "This can't be the end," Sarah realized. "We have to," but then the dark storm surged forward, overpowering not just their light, but their intention as well. It was a force, a river of desperation, dragging them under. The last thing she saw was the creature's eyes, now filled with an unfamiliar clarity, flickering between the world of darkness and the light she offered. She felt a strange pang of hope entwined with horror. And then they were gone, swallowed whole by the shadows in that abyss. Sarah sensed a presence, something larger, more powerful, lurking just beyond comprehension. What awaited them in this dark expanse? Would they find the beast or themselves? And would they emerge stronger, or shatter under the weight of fear? The darkness closed around them like a thick mist, swallowing Sarah, Lila, and the boy into an endless void. It felt like drowning, but they weren't submerged in water. They were engulfed in shadows that pressed against their skin, cold and clammy. "Can you hear me?" Lila's voice broke through the shroud, trembling and fragile. "Yes, let us not lose each other," Sarah shouted, fighting against the oppressive weight. A soft glow began to pulse from the tome, lying somewhere out of reach. They had to focus, to push against the darkness together. The ground beneath them felt unstable, shifting and swirling. They might be falling, or maybe it was just the sense of their surroundings collapsing. Whatever it was, they couldn't afford to let go. "We've connected with the beast before," the boy whispered, the tremor palpable in his voice. It resonated with the lingering memories of the creature's sorrowful eyes. It had understood. Images flashed in Sarah's mind, the beast roaring. The way its form seemed almost human. She could feel its pain like a distant echo, reverberating within her until it took shape in her chest, a tight ache that spoke to something profound and shared. What if that connection is still alive? In here? Sarah mused, her words like a lifeline. "If we can reach it, we might still have a chance." "Do you think it's listening?" Lila asked, her voice hopeful yet laced with fear. "It has to be," Sarah insisted. "We can ignite that spark of recognition, of understanding." With newfound determination, they formed a tighter circle, squeezing each other's hands, mixing their hopes and fears. They had lost control of their environment, but they wouldn't lose the bond they forged in light. "Together," Sarah shouted, pulling her energy from the depth of despair, from the glimmers of their shared experiences. "We call to you. We witness your struggle." For what felt like eons, they shouted into the void, their voices intertwining, breaking through the thick gloom. The shadows shifted, echoing, resonating with their emotions. Just when their voices began to fade and the cold threatened to consume them completely, they felt a flicker, a rush of warmth ignited amongst them. "Stay strong," the boy encouraged, as he felt the ground begin to stabilize beneath them. Sarah closed her eyes, picturing the beast's eyes staring back at her, not in anger, but in yearning. "We're here for you. You're not alone." Suddenly, a roar echoed through the abyss, not of anger, but desperation. It vibrated through their bones, sending shivers down their spines, melding with the energy they had created. The shadows started to breathe, pulsing like a heartbeat, and Sarah felt the edges of her fear dissolve, replaced by something luminous and powerful. The light began to expand, pushing against the confines of the dark. They were gaining ground, but with every pulse, there came a flicker of uncertainty. What if the beast didn't want their help? What if it rejected their kindness and returned to its rage? The shadows shrieked and twisted, as if threatening to retaliate, but Sarah held on tighter. "We see you. We don't fear you." Just then, the world trembled, and a vivid flash lit up the darkness around them, a vision of the beast, hurling itself against endless walls, chains wrapping it in anger and despair. "Look!" Sarah gasped as the scenes unfurled before them. Each image was a glimpse into the beast's past, layers of pain and loss laid bare. "This is what we have to fight." Suddenly, the connection snapped. The energy flared and sputtered, leaving them hanging in a void that felt like it could collapse at any moment. The boundaries of their sphere wavered, and whispers of despair brushed their ears. "Sarah, what do we do?" Lila cried, fear sweeping over her, and in that heartbeat, the shadows roared with renewed fury. The roar was deafening, then everything went pitch black. Could they withstand this storm, or would they fall forever into despair? Would they see the truth they had glimpsed, or had they merely opened the door to deeper horrors awaiting them? The answers loomed, just out of reach. A blinding light erupted, and the oppressive darkness began to fracture like glass. Sarah, Lila, and the boy felt the ground solidify beneath them, anchoring them in the chaos. The echo of their chants surrounded them, reverberating through the shadows, challenging the very essence of despair. "Hold on," Sarah shouted, her voice breaking through the tumult. They were on the edge of something transformative. Just as the shadows convulsed around them, a figure emerged from their depths, the beast, wrestling between vengeance and vulnerability. "Show it mercy," Sarah cried, feeling the truth radiate within her. "It's not just a monster." The beast paused, its glowing eyes flickering with uncertainty. For an instant, silence filled the air thick with anticipation. Lila squeezed Sarah's hand, her face lit with courage and fear all at once. Together, we reach for understanding. With renewed vigor, they channeled their energy, each memory, each shared laugh and warm embrace flooding back to the surface. "You're not alone," they shouted, the connection binding them tighter. The shadows hesitated, quivering as though weighed down by an unseen force. They envisioned the battle that lay ahead, the beast tangled in its own fear, and they were ready to face it all. "We choose compassion," the boy cried, his voice fierce. "We choose freedom." As their voices melded, the light surged brighter, pushing against the encroaching darkness. In a flicker of clarity, the shadows began to reveal the beast's true form, skin shimmering like the night sky. It roared, but this time there was no fury, just a deep, haunting sorrow that echoed through their hearts. "It can be free," Sarah said breathlessly, bringing forth images of love, hope, and belonging. "Let's see that. Don't abandon your own," Lila echoed. The shadows quivered, and the beast faltered, inching closer, hesitant yet curious. The light pulsed between them, casting a halo around them, sparkling like countless stars fighting against the dark. "You don't have to be this way," Sarah called through tears. "Release the pain." The ground beneath them shook, and suddenly the assortment of memories ignited like kindling, illuminating the beast with a radiant glow. A crack formed in its monstrous exterior, revealing tortured eyes glossed with sorrow. Sarah felt a surge of compassion well up, and her heart raced with connection. Then, the beast hesitated. The shadows tightened, desperate to keep it in their grasp. But the bond they forged shone too brightly to be extinguished. Sarah yelled, "We see you. We witness your struggle." The darkness erupted in rage, but their words cut through like a hot knife through butter. With every declaration of understanding, more cracks splintered in the beast's form, weakening the grip of despair. It let out a pained howl, arching back against the light. "Finish this," Lila screamed, determination igniting her features as they pressed on. "We can't let it be lost to darkness." Together, they rang out, voices unified against the rising wound of fear. With a final push, the light surged and enveloped the beast, wrapping it in warmth and love. Let the darkness fall, they shouted, hands clasped tightly, anchoring it with their intertwined fate. In one blinding moment, the shadows exploded outward, shattering into countless specks of light. With a roar, the beast fused into the brilliance, its form transforming, becoming something bright and hopeful, and with a flash of light, it was gone. Silence enveloped them, soft and warm like a blanket of stars. As the dust settled, Sarah, Lila, and the boy stood amidst the remnants of chaos, no longer trapped by darkness, but bathed in the glow of the dawn. The church around them felt wholly changed. Fragments of light danced in the air, and the oppressive weight of despair melted away. They exchanged glances, breathless, eyes reflecting wonder and hope. Did we do it? The boy asked, disbelief coloring his voice as they began to take in their surroundings, the shift palpable. Lila touched the edges of the tome, still glowing faintly. We faced it. Together. No more shadows haunting us, she said, her voice steady. Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes as she looked toward the broken windows. The dawn light streamed in, illuminating their battered but hopeful spirits. There's nothing left but the truth, she whispered, her heart swelling with warmth. With a shared embrace, they soaked in the moment, the culmination of courage and compassion, of victory against their deepest fears. Each step through the threshold felt like bearing witness to triumph and tenderness. As they stepped outside, they were met with a town liberated from the clutches of panic. The morning sun spilled warmth over their fears, chasing shadows far from their hearts. Their community would rebuild, stronger than before, but they knew the beast's lesson was one they could never forget. They would remember, they would share, and in that shared understanding between friends, a bond braver than darkness, emerged anew, a promise to always confront their fears, not with flight, but with an open heart. As they looked towards the horizon, they knew something beautiful had emerged from the chaos. Something powerful would carry them forth together. Don't let this ending be the final word. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Hit that button immediately. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm, and flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this explosive conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this epic finale. Your support matters, and only true fans understand the importance of standing together.